Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, Disney is being sued over allegations that it is collecting and selling children's personal information. A 10-year-old girl gets robbed of her Disneyland savings, and a new Star Wars virtual reality experience is coming to Disney Springs later this year. We'll tell you more about that. Steve Porter is also going to be joining us a little later on from Epcot with a report on Universe of Energy. All that plus Roundtable Rapid Fire coming up next. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, this is the Diz Unplugged. This is the Diz Unplugged, episode 950 for the week of August 8th, 2017. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you live from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, Mr. John Magi.
Hi, everybody.
Mr. Kevin Close.
Hi, everyone.
Mr. Charles Boda.
Hello.
Mrs. Julie Martin.
Hey, y'all.
And Craig.
Hi.
So welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a good week. We've got a few things to talk about in housekeeping before we get on to the news. First of all, I want to remind everybody, if you'd like to listen to the best and worst of Walt Disney World show that we do, you can now subscribe to that separately on iTunes. It had been on the same feed with this show for a while, and now it's strong enough to stand on its own. It's gone off to school, so to speak. So you can go to DizUnplugged.com, anywhere in the show notes, and subscribe to that show and all of our shows if you'd like to get them on iTunes. Also, want to remind everyone, we are still looking for video contributors. If you'd like to contribute to the Diz and do vlogs and things of that nature, we'd love to see what you've got. So head over to DizUnplugged.com, check out the show notes. You'll find a link for that too. And want to remind everybody that you can also download the Diz Unplugged app on the Apple iTunes Store or the Google Play Store. Just search for Diz Unplugged and you get all the latest shows, the Dreams Unlimited Travel show, the best and worst, this show, Universal, Disneyland, Diz Pop. Am I missing anything?
Connecting with Walt.
Connecting with Walt.
Yep.
All of that available on the show, along with the show notes. Our news feed is updated there. Ability to go check out the dizboards.com from the app. Links to our Facebook and Twitter, everything. All right there in one very convenient free app. So just search for Diz Unplugged on the Apple iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, and you can have all that wonderful in your pocket. And we can go many places with that, and we won't. Speaking of shows, I want to remind you of the shows we have coming up this week. Every Monday, DizUnplugged.com and YouTube.com/Dreams Unlimited Travel is the Dreams Unlimited Travel podcast with John Magi, Kevin Close, and Miss Tracy Heinrichs. And what have you got coming up this week, Mr. Magi?
This past week, Monday show, Tracy did a really great show on using Disney's quick service dining plan to get other choices other than like pizza and hamburgers and chicken fingers. But because Tracy was recently diagnosed with food sensitivities, it actually became became equally about how she used that to make her dining choices. So really good coverage on if you have food allergies, but also if you're planning on using the quick service dining, how you can get other options. She had some great stuff. She got like steak and fish and chips that looked wonderful. So
awesome.
That was really good. And then coming up on this week's show, next Monday, we're going to do an Alani questions and answer show. We're going to be taking questions from our folks, our clients, our listeners, and all those good things.
All right. Also, every Monday, DizUnplugged.com, the Disneyland edition of the Diz Unplugged with host Tom Bell and his team. And this week, Mary Jo talks about her recent trip to the Los Angeles Zoo. Every Wednesday, the best and worst of Walt Disney World with myself and Mr. Steve Porter. This week, we are discussing the worst character dining, the 5 worst character dining experiences at Walt Disney World. And we did this a little different than we've done some of the other ones. We've been doing a lot of polls. And what we had been doing is just like doing one poll for, what's your favorite character, like your favorite, character meal. And then we were using the top 5 answers as the best and taking the bottom 5 as the worst. And some people were suggesting you should do a separate poll for worst. Turns out they were right. So we did a separate poll for this. Very interesting results. Not surprising, the number 1 position. No one's going to be surprised by it, least of all me. But some of the other ones were kind of surprising. So you can check that out Wednesday. The best and worst of Walt Disney World.
The number 1 best surprised you, or the number 1 worst surprised you?
The number 1 worst did not surprise me.
Okay.
Did not surprise me. Should not surprise anyone. What do you think? Well, never mind. We don't give it away. We don't want to do any spoilers. But Wednesday, you'll find out what the number 1 worst character meal at Disney World is. And if you've listened to this show for more than 20 minutes in the past, you know what it is already. But every Thursday, DisUnplugged.com, the Universal edition of the Dis Unplugged, with Craig and Rhino. And this week's show, Craig?
On this week's show, we are going to give you tips for what you can do at Universal Orlando or kind of in the greater surrounding area of property. If it's all rainy outside and kind of miserable and you're looking for something else to do. So it's a good one to give you some tips about what is all around Universal instead of just on property.
Considering it's rained every single day.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a good tip.
Oh, it's been horrible. But also every Friday, DisUnplugged.com, DisPop with Mr. Rhino Clavin, and I think this week, Craig Williams.
Yeah, as most weeks now. This week we are talking about the Nicktoons through the 90s, so starting with like Ren and Stimpy and Rugrats and moving all the way up through SpongeBob SquarePants and our adoration for all those things.
Okay, that's coming up this week. And if you're wondering where Rhino is, he is over in the UK. He's was in Ireland, then he was in London, now he's going back to Ireland. Don't ask me, I don't plan his trips. But he'll be back with us again next week. So those of you missing Rhino, his giant head will be zooming across the Atlantic later on this week, and he'll be back with us here in the studio next Tuesday. So anything else in housekeeping?
Nope.
No housekeeping? No?
Julie was like thinking about it.
No. Okay. Then very interested to talk about this first news story.
All right. Our first news story, Disney facing lawsuit over collecting and selling children's personal information. A class action lawsuit was filed against the Walt Disney Company, alleging that Disney violated the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. The law is put in place to protect children's rights by placing special restrictions and requirements on websites and online services marketing to those 13 years of age or younger. The lawsuit was filed in April of this year in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, and it names Amanda Rushing and her child as plaintiffs, as well as other parents and children with the same grievance. A few days ago, the Walt Disney Company has released a response to the pending lawsuit. Their official statement reads, quote, Disney has a robust COPPA compliance program, and we maintain strict data collection and use policies for Disney apps created for children and families. The complaint is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of COPPA principles, and we look forward to defending this action in court.
Well, what was...
Challenge accepted by Disney, right?
Yeah.
It's a weird way to say it. We look forward to defending it in court. It's kind of aggressive.
What struck me about this, first of all, this is pretty serious. I thought it was serious when I first saw it. Charles wrote the article for us on the Diz, and over the weekend received an email from Disney Legal responding to the article. Now, 20 years that I've had the Diz, and we've been putting up stories of all sorts for years, never once had Disney respond. Tells me that there's something about this that they're nervous about. So we invited our good friend, Mr. Jack Bergen, our attorney friend. It's always good to have an attorney as a friend, to join us and talk a little bit more about this. Jack, what do you have to say about this story?
Well, first I want to say hello to Disney Legal.
They're watching you.
Well, I've looked at this, and the COPPA is, as I'm going to call it, COPPA, all caps.
Oh, I liked Copa better, like the Copacabana.
Well, I thought so, and COPPA has kind of some other connotations, but we'll keep it clean here.
Okay.
Oh, Jack went there already.
Since we're already talking about children, it's designed to prevent companies from tracking children. And John, just to play lawyer, it is the definition of child means an individual under the age of 13, not 13 or below. Not that 1 year makes much of a difference in my mind, but I thought I'd play lawyer. So COPPA provides for several things. First, they have to provide a notice about personal information that the website collects from children. If the website or the online service, which in this case would include apps designed for children, will collect that personal information. And the policy has to say how the company will use the information, how they'll disclose it. And then the key point of this lawsuit is that how the company will obtain parental consent before collecting, using, or disclosing that personal information from children. And so the lawsuit here goes into, well, the major allegation is that Disney never obtained the parents' verifiable parental consent to collect, use, or disclose their child's personal information. And by that, verifiable parental consent is meant to be more than just clicking the box saying, yes, I'm 13 or 13 old. What it means is that there's kind of a two-step verification. And companies that state
Hey, Jack, your feed is coming in and out on Skype, so we're getting like every other word. So I don't know, Craig. Do we want to try and bring him back in or reconnect?
Yeah, we can. If you
Yeah,
wanna,
let's do that, Jack. We'll talk to Charles a little bit while we try and get you back on, so we can hear everything that you're saying. I'll just kind of paraphrase some of what Jack was saying. That COPPA requires not just that it's a two-step verification. Not only does it require that you acknowledge that you're basically under the age of 13 and that you've read and agreed to these terms, but also that there's parental consent, and that this applies to any online contact, whether it be a website, an app, and specifically what we're talking about here, what triggered this, was the presence of some code in some apps. So, Charles, you were talking to me about this yesterday, so I'll let you share some more on it.
The class action suit, it's Disney and then separate companies that they worked with who embedded code in there to collect information that could later be used or sold for marketing purposes. So to create profiles based on time of use, preferences, and everything like that over multiple devices too. And Disney had previously had something similar happen in 2011 with one of their subsidiaries, Playdom, which they bought Playdom in, I think, late 2010, like May 2010. And so their legal team had already dealt with violations of COPPA. Playdom and the company they purchased, Acclaim, had a similar thing. They had 20 of these virtual worlds that, like the names like 2 Moons and 9 Dragons and stuff like that. Well, they had one called Pony Stars, which was specifically targeted towards children. I mean, like the only people who were going to be on this app were children. And they didn't allow for verification or for parental consent. And they ended up collecting 400,000 children's information on their 20 virtual worlds, but an additional 800,000 for their Pony Stars thing, and they ended up paying $3 million to the FTC.
So when Disney acquired this company, Disney ended up having to pay this money.
Yeah, so Disney did not own the company for the majority of when it started, through 2006 to 2010, but Disney Legal has dealt with it because this came up right after they purchased the company. So their COPA rules should be pretty much on lock. So, when the response mentions, we understand and everything like that.
Because we've already had to pay for this.
Yeah, so it would, they can't, they're not in a position to where they could, claim ignorance of COPA or anything like that.
All right, we've got Jack back. So talk to me so I know that we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. So
All right.
I'll let you go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Playdom lawsuit. Is that it, the Playdom action? Disney acquired Playdom in August of 2010, and the violations occurred, at least according to the FTC's website, between 2006 and 2010. But yes, Disney Legal probably negotiated the settlement. Probably when they bought Playdom, they included some kind of reservation in the purchase price to be able to pay whatever fines were levied or agreed to. And so, yes, that shows that Disney has are well aware of the COPA requirements. And when you go to buy an app, I took one for the team here and downloaded the Disney Princess Pets app.
Sure
which
you
is the
did.
subject of the lawsuit. And before you can download it, well, you can download it free, and then of course it's the app. Then you have in-app purchases. And so when you go to purchases, a little pop-up comes up saying check with an adult, and then also on the App Store screen, it links to Disney's children's privacy policy, which says that it fully complies with COPA, and they use a third party, say FAR, to verify the compliance. Now, what?
No, we're good.
Okay. The interesting thing about the lawsuit is that COPA does not permit private party lawsuits. It's enforced by state attorney generals or by the FTC itself, with some other regulatory agencies that can enforce it as other types of entities. For instance, banks can be enforced by the FDIC. So for our purposes, COPA does not self-forbid this lawsuit. And I'll get to another point of COPA in a minute. So instead of suing under COPA, what they have done is sue for the tort of invasion of seclusion.
Now we're back to having this this
you're all
issue.
crunchy.
Any idea? Is it on our end, Craig?
It seems that it was starting out strong, but it seems to have faded.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a connection issue. Jack, I have a question for you. In the lawsuit that these people have filed, what are the damages they're seeking? What are the damages to this child and family that the information's out there? Is there any?
They don't specify an amount. For jurisdictional purposes, they have alleged more than $5 million is at issue. But when you look at their claim for damages, what they want is an injunction prohibiting Disney from doing this and punitive damages.
All right. Yeah, Jack, it seems much better when you're close to the mic.
Okay, let me just hold the mic down.
Yeah.
How's that?
The closer you are to the mic, the better it seems to be. So,
Okay.
But you're saying that COPA does not really allow, I mean, this has to be enforced by the government. It doesn't allow for private party lawsuits. So is that, do you think, where Disney's going to go with this, to have this dismissed?
Yes. I think they'll file a motion to dismiss, which has a pretty decent chance of being successful. The way the plaintiffs have tried to characterize their claim as this, essentially, let's call it a tort of invasion of privacy under state law and under California law, is that they're suing. Let me kind of explain that this tort is used whenever somebody really invades your privacy, trying Well, the example is that a reporter sneaks into somebody's hospital and takes pictures of some dreaded disease, and you can sue the reporter for disclosing private information. So that's where the plaintiffs are trying to fit this lawsuit.
So, yeah, because you're coming in and out again, I just want to repeat what you just said because I think it's interesting. The basis, the law they're trying to use to do this suit is an invasion of privacy law, whereas like if a reporter sneaks into a hospital room and takes a picture of somebody with a terrible disease and invades their privacy doing that, that's really what this law is designed for. This law is not designed for COPPA protection.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about COPPA is it does not permit private parties to enforce COPPA. As a matter of fact, it includes what we call a preemption provision, which specifically says that no state laws can take action inconsistent with the procedures and actions authorized by COPPA. So the first motion Disney will file is to argue that COPPA itself prohibits these tort causes of actions against Disney.
Yeah, but is that going to end up being an invitation for the FTC and state attorney general to say, okay, then we'll pick it up from here, and but
I've tried this before. People complain to the FTC all the time about potential violations, and for all I know, I just don't have a technical background to know whether Disney has in fact violated COPPA. I'm looking at this from the standpoint of does this lawsuit have merit? And the first principle is you can only enforce federal laws if Congress gives you permission to do so. And here, by setting up FTC and state law enforcement, state attorney general enforcement, Congress, or would say, has intended that only those parties can enforce COPPA. So the preemption provision is going to be an initial defense.
So Disney probably has a really good chance of getting this thrown out of court. What I found interesting, like I said before, was the fact that unsolicited, we received a response to this story from Disney Legal, which is highly, highly unusual. We don't, and we're assuming. I mean, we're assuming that any outlet that posted this story probably got the exact same email that we did, but and basically it was just, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charles. It was just basically reinforcing that, we follow all COPPA guidelines and this is a misunderstanding. The plaintiffs don't understand how COPPA works. But I just found the fact that they responded like this in and of itself to be unusual.
It was a quick response, too.
It was very quick.
They were not sitting on it for a significant length of time. I wrote the article in the afternoon, and I think...
This was on Thursday?
Yeah, I think I received the email maybe 4 or 5 hours later, probably maybe a little later than that.
Wow.
But, so, yeah, they're on it because it's incredibly bad PR for children's information, obviously. So it's not something they're taking lightly, it seems. But.
Well, I'm intrigued to see where this goes, and if Jack's prediction is correct, that they stand a decent chance of getting this dismissed, just on the face of it, because the private parties don't have the right to sue. Because I didn't know that. I didn't know that private parties couldn't sue for COPPA, which is why we talked to a lawyer.
This is a lawsuit. The claims they're asserting in this lawsuit are actually based on a lawsuit against Nickelodeon. Nick.com had a children's privacy policy that flat out said, hey, grown-ups, we don't collect any personal information about your kids, which means we couldn't share it even if we wanted to. The lawsuit against Nick alleged that was flat false. And so the court permitted this invasion of seclusion tort to go forward reasoning that the promise not to collect any information from children itself created an expectation of privacy with respect to this, whatever the children do on the Nickelodeon website.
So there's actually precedent then
Yes.
for a lawsuit like this to go through, and that's what this legal team, I guess, is banking on. But you think even with that precedent, Disney stands a good chance of getting this dismissed?
Right, because there is a difference between Disney's COPPA policy, where they acknowledge they do take certain information with parent permission, and say we don't collect any personal information.
And I just have to be honest. I mean, again, I don't know. Maybe they did do this. Maybe there is something here. Especially with what we were just talking about with the company they purchased. And the fact that they had to pay out money, basically honoring the violations that company had committed. It just doesn't seem like Disney to let a big detail like that slip past them.
Yeah, well, part of it too, and I haven't seen in this lawsuit yet, but with the previous one, the information that they use, if you're wondering, this lawsuit is based off information compiled and sold for marketing. But the previous lawsuit, one of the problems was that it allowed children, it was again 12 years or under, I guess, it allowed them to go on and share information on profiles and in forums, and that information that would get shared would be their own profile, also their location and their instant messenger tag. So these children's personal information, they were going out public for places in places where if somebody were looking for it, they could take advantage of it. I don't think that's the same case with this lawsuit, but I'm not exactly positive about it. So,
well, I think that I think it has, especially if it's allowed to move forward, then this is going to become a big deal. I think right now Disney's not taking any chances, and I do want to make the point that, as I mentioned, not only has Disney responded in general to this, but they've also responded specifically to us, and they are vehemently standing by their claims that they have not violated COPPA and that they're fully prepared to defend that in court. So it's very interesting. But Jack, thank you so much for taking time to join us. Sorry about the technical glitch, but it's always good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while, so we'll have to hope for some more lawsuit stories so we can bring you back. Or maybe bring you back just on something. To my ears. Or maybe just bring you back on something non-legal related. So, all right.
It's good to be here.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. All right. We move on to the next. All right. The next happy story.
Our next news is actually a happy story. 10-year-old girl robbed of Disneyland savings, so police paid for her trip. A thief who burglarized a home in Salinas, California, stole $200 cash that 10-year-old Andrea Ramirez was saving for a Disneyland vacation. When Andrea and her family showed up at police headquarters to report they had been robbed, police only took a report, but also not only took a report, but also took it upon themselves to make sure the young girl made it to Disneyland. Police Chief Adele Frez was quoted as saying, "Our police officers said there's no way, not on my watch. It was bad enough that the burglary happened, but that we have to make this good for this little girl." The chief says police and community service officers opened their hearts and their wallets for the fifth grader. The police then called the girl and her family to the station on the ruse they wanted them to identify some of their stolen property. When Andrea showed up, police gave her Mickey Mouse cards and more than $1,000 in cash. Wow. Andrea said, quote, "I was so happy to go, but when they robbed me, I thought I wasn't going to go anymore." So that had a happy ending.
That did have a happy ending. And I love... look, I don't want to get inundated with emails here. I love stories like this because it seems that every story we hear anymore about police officers are usually really, really bad. And I'm not saying for a second that those stories aren't valid, that there aren't problems. But the vast majority of law enforcement are good, decent people doing a job many of us don't have the stones to do. Mm-hmm. And, so when I hear things like this, it really makes me, it makes me happy for this family and this little girl, but also that it's just a good story.
I agree. It's a good
And
story.
it's nice to hear something positive. So
True.
that's all. I won't go
right.
any further.
Okay. Third news story. Kevin hasn't had a chance to participate much so far on the show, so this is for him. Virtual reality Star Wars experience coming to Walt Disney World and Disneyland.
He and I will be first in line, right, Kevin?
I know.
Julie, I am so excited.
Yep, me too.
I'm going to be positive about this
All
from
right,
now
you
on.
go ahead. Set to open this holiday season at both Disney Springs and Walt Disney World, and in downtown Disney at the Disneyland Resort are 2 new Void Experience Centers. These Void Experience Centers will allow guests to step inside an immersive virtual reality experience called Star Wars Secrets of the Empire. The Void is a, quote, location-based immersive entertainment firm from Utah. They've teamed up with Lucasfilm's Letters, ILMXLAB, which is their immersive entertainment division, to create an experience that will allow guests to walk freely into a galaxy far, far away.
Not far enough.
The crucial part of the Void's virtual reality experiences is the combination of the virtual reality and the physical, tangible surroundings that are also part of the experience.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am really, 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 really excited about this. I think this sounds amazing.
Didn't we do this in Las Vegas where they blew us up onto the deck of the...
But it wasn't virtual reality. That
No.
was an actual physical experience.
And this is a combination of both.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
God,
combination
it's really
is what,
different.
This combination is what makes the attraction into what the Void calls a hyper reality experience. Through the power of the Void, guests who step into Star Wars Secrets of the Empire won't just see this world, they'll know that they are part of this amazing story. There aren't many details out on what will take place or what the story will be in Star Wars Secrets of the Empire, but many have gathered that it might take place around the same time period as Rogue One, a Star Wars story, due to the appearance of the security droid K2SO. It also appears that guests will visit Mustafar, a volcanic planet that is seen in Star Wars Episode 3 and in Rogue One. So, yeah, things are going to happen.
Do we know the date this is going to open?
I don't know the date.
It wasn't mentioned in any story I
I heard
came
later
across.
this year.
Yeah.
I did.
Before-
I have taken a look at some of the previous stuff though. They did a Ghostbusters one as well, and it was it looks relatively awesome. They've got haptic vests, so you feel it. And when you're in the VR, it's got real world elements. So, like, let's say you go to grab a doorknob, there's a real world doorknob you're grabbing.
You are actually moving around here. You're not. This is not a seated experience.
No, you're moving around, and it's not just like a flat black room. Like I did a VR thing recently over at Point Orlando, and it's like you're in a bare room. But they use a bunch of techniques that they claim kind of like that a magician or an illusionist would use. So like removable walls and perspective changes, so that you're in a room but you have props. So what you're seeing in the VR, when you go to touch it and feel it,
It's there.
You actually touch it and feel it. And like the haptic suit gives you like tactile sensations too. So it's a whole thing. It's not like your average
It's not just sitting in your chair with the headset on.
yeah, it's not like any VR experience that I've ever done or that I'm used to kind of
Okay,
thing.
I am really, really psyched about that. I think this is cool.
So when Darth Vader comes up and tweaks your nipples, you actually feel it.
And I think Kevin is a good opportunity for him to break out his Princess Amidala
I
uniform.
think so too.
Is that Natalie Portman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that'll do that.
You get confused for Natalie all the time.
We're about the same size.
What I think is neat is that this is coming to downtown Disney. So this isn't a park experience. This isn't something you have to buy a ticket for.
And that's going to make it
Right.
ridiculous in terms of the lines and
I'm sure it's going to be an extra cost.
There are people sleeping out already.
Probably are.
probably
Do you think it's
are.
going in the where Disney Quest is?
No,
No,
that's
Disney Quest is going to be the NBA
the
experience.
NBA
Oh, yeah, I
experience.
forgot. So,
Something else Kevin's very
Something
excited
you and
about.
something else we can share.
Exciting.
NBA and Star Wars. I'll be at the mall.
All right, that'll do it for the news.
All right, thank you, John. Before we move on to rapid fire, I see Mr. Porter. How are you?
I'm good. How are you
It
guys?
looks hot.
Doing good. Is it extraordinarily hot out there?
It's warm, but it actually doesn't feel as humid as it usually is in Orlando, so it's not as bad.
And I noticed that you are in Epcot, standing in front of universe of sleep disorders. I mean, universe of energy.
You and the other
Exact-
3 people.
What'd you say?
You and the other 3 people that are in Epcot today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, although there's probably more people over here than normal because it's about to close soon. So we have some people, I think, giving their final goodbyes, which I'm actually doing today as well.
When does it close?
I think this Saturday. Craig, do you know for sure? I think it's this Saturday.
It's a Sunday.
Sunday.
The thundering
Sunday.
hordes are there to say goodbye.
Is Epcot itself pretty crowded today, or is it pretty quiet?
Yeah, I mean, it's as to be expected in the summer. We have a 55-minute wait for Test Track. I think Soarin' was an hour. The Frozen Ever After was 95. So not super bad, but it is somewhat crowded. At least it absorbs the crowds a little bit better than the others, so it doesn't feel too bad.
So, what else you got to tell us?
So I was over at Soarin', I did that, and then I've kind of actually walked around. There's some new signage over at Mission Space. I actually posted a little bit of a news story yesterday on with new height requirements for the new mission, for the new green mission is now at 40 inches rather than 44. So they put that signage up. And I talked to the cast member outside. He said as soon as the universe comes down, Mission Space will come open. So it'll be nice that it'll help the crowds over here that the Mission Space will be open as soon as this is closed.
Explain to people what the green mission is at Mission Space.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of complaints over the years that the Mission Space attraction's been too intense, and that's why they actually came out with the Green Mission originally. It's a less intense version of the Mission to Mars type, or Mission to Mars mission of the Orange Mission. But actually, they've taken it one step further.
How many times
Now
could he
the
put the
Green
word
Mission
mission into a
orbits
sentence?
the Earth.
I think that was 11.
What?
You said mission 11 times.
Well, it is a mission. I don't know what else to call it. So now new height requirements for that. So that's
Kermit the
cool
Frog there?
for young riders that want to get on.
What?
Was Kermit the Frog there?
Leave him alone. Leave him alone.
I know. Don't
Poor
pick on
Steve.
Steve. I get it.
He gets enough from
They're
me.
gonna send me hate mail. I understand.
I don't know. I don't care.
He doesn't care anymore. It's over us.
He's given
Now
up.
he's an employee of the Disney.
Now, well, apparently, like the show must have just let out or something because there's like people like running from the building. Look at this.
I think this is called fleeing.
Max exodus of the attraction.
Well, yeah, because it holds it holds a lot of people. Every show does hold quite a few people at Universal.
Yeah.
Energy.
So even though it's just closing, there's still like a 5-minute wait because it fits hundreds of people. So
Also, look how happy they are getting off the ride. They had such a good time.
I think they're more happy that they're leaving rather than anything else.
They cooled down for a minute, I think.
So, what else is on your plans for today, Steve?
Probably make a trek around World Showcase, and I'm not too sure. Probably just take a trek around. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'll probably do that as well.
What are you thinking about for lunch?
I love Katsura Grill in Japan, so I might stop over there. That's probably my favorite quick service. That and Sunshine Seasons are my 2 favorites.
Okay, cool. All right, well, go make sure you vlog it.
Will do.
Okay, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, guys.
What the hell? Is that a rape whistle?
I think it's a home invasion, but I'm not sure.
It sounded like a rape whistle.
It's the band coming to say goodbye.
Well, then he disappeared so quickly. I'm
Really, yeah.
kind of worried.
It's Epcot's all lesbian band being a send off to Ellen. What?
Oh, okay.
Could be a thing.
Let's go ahead and move on to rapid fire. Mr. Magi, what have you got for us?
Oh my God, I'm getting side eyes over here from Kevin.
Better than getting side boob.
Really? Disney Cruise Line is adjusting their cancellation policy beginning August 15th. This is for 5-night sailings and their special holiday sailings. The 5 nights cancellation policies will start at 89 days versus 74 days. And for the special holiday sailings, 104 days versus 89 days. Not a huge difference and nothing to the other
Well, it's
cruises.
15 days. They've added 15 days
Right.
to each one.
And all the other cruises stay the same. The cancellation stays the same. I think what this points to now is how popular 5-night cruises have become.
Yeah.
Because it used to be 1 through 5 had a certain policy. Now it's 1 through 4, and then 5 through whatever the longest cruise is. So that tells a lot for now how popular these cruises have
So
become.
this is 5-night and longer cruises, not
Correct.
just the 5-night cruises.
Correct. Sort of that 5-night sailing moved into the upper category of.
Any idea why they would?
I think it's just the popularity of it. They don't want people canceling because they want to keep those staterooms on those ships because they know people want them.
I guess they must be having some cancellation drama then if they're needing to extend.
Probably at the last minute.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I think a lot of the cruise lines are changing their cancellation policies. Royal Caribbean changed theirs also.
They went to this non-refundable option for a lot of their cruises because, especially for suites now, it's
Right.
not an option anymore.
If you cancel, even within a certain amount of time, there's a penalty.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, John.
All right, that's it. Keeping it
Kevin?
Saks
rapid.
Fifth Avenue and Disney are going to celebrate the 80th anniversary of Snow White. That's it, I'm done. No, I'm kidding. Saks Fifth Avenue in New York is going to offer a series of themed breakfasts at Cafe SFA, Saks Fifth Avenue. On the 8th floor, they're going to have Snow White. Dopey will make special guest appearances during seatings on select days from Saturday, November 25th through Sunday, December 31st. And this is the part that interested me. Saks' annual holiday window unveiling in New York will celebrate Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The collaboration includes Disney-inspired fashion, accessories, and giftable items created by premier designers and available in Saks stores in the U.S., Canada, and at Saks.com.
Ooh.
Combining with Disney has become a thing. Coach just did it with a couple of times where they created Disney-inspired leather goods and stuff like that. So
Everybody's doing it.
yep.
Yeah, but they're at
Disney's a
least
popular
keeping
thing.
it. They're at least keeping it on. It's Coach, Saks Fifth Avenue.
Right,
So
and
they're
I'm
up-
not.
they're up-
I think it's
upscale.
great. We went to the Coach sale and bought stuff for people. I think this is awesome, and it's hard to believe that movie's 80 years old. It's
Yeah,
like such
that's
a part of
crazy,
our
isn't it?
lives and it's still so fresh. Speaking of anniversaries, yesterday would have been Lucille Ball's 106th birthday, and I can't let this go without thinking about that.
Wow.
It was just her birthday yesterday, so. But I think this is a good thing. I'll be interested to see what they offer.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Charles.
Yeah. So there is free valet parking and a free appetizer for each adult entree at 4 restaurants.
This is for Florida residents.
This is for Florida residents. At Gico, Citrico's, Flying Fish, and Artist Point. And all 4 of those are also on that list for the 30% off that DVC members and Tables in Wonderland get.
and annual pass holders.
And annual pass holders. So,
People with elbows.
I think you guys talked about this on a previous show. This speaks a lot to the fact that they can't get locals to come to Disney.
They're. I think we have a perfect storm. I was actually over at Gico recently and talked to somebody who mentioned that normally in the summer they see a dip because the clientele in the summer tend to be families and a little more value conscious. So some of these, like Gico and Flying Fish and Citrico's, tend to see a drop off. I think it's even more pronounced this year because of all the announcements of, with Toy Story opening next year, Star Wars opening the year after that, people saying we're going to hold off, combined with Disney raising the ticket prices during peak season, which this is now considered peak season, to try and thin out the crowds a little bit without losing money. I think that's what we're seeing here. But
It's also interesting that these are all out of park experiences. These are
Right, restaurants you don't have to go into.
Right, you don't need a theme park to go to these. So it's interesting that they're pushing that.
Exactly.
I think probably in general the reason why they see a summer drop off is that for Floridians, summer is the equivalent of the Northeast's winter. Like we don't go out as much,
Right.
Because of the heat and the humidity, and so we stay home as it is. So I think that's one of the reasons for their local drop off.
Now, while I'm speaking about Gico, first of all, the dinner that we had there Thursday night was, as always, spectacular. I mean, it was amazing. And some of you know about, the secret menu item of the filet with the red wine reduction and the mac and cheese. That, it's not on the menu, quote unquote, but you can order it because it's so popular. It was on the menu when the restaurant first opened. They took it off. People flipped out. So they make it available, but you got to ask for it. Well, they've kind of put it back on the menu, but they did it a little different. Now it can be either the filet itself or a Wagyu strip steak. And they have the same reduction sauce, but in addition, the mac and cheese is now combined with a bobotie. And I got to tell you, it is about the greatest thing I've ever had in my life. It was so good.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
And
it's amazing.
We left that meal uncomfortable. We were so full.
That's how Corey leaves every meal.
Well, exactly.
That's how I leave every meal with Corey. Feeling uncomfortable.
It was absolutely spectacular. The service was great. The food was just.
I've never had a bad meal at Chico.
Yeah,
No.
I love Chico.
You
I've
know
never
what?
had a bad
Everything.
experience.
And you can still order the mac and cheese without the bobotie
Right.
if you want the original version. But like, I'd recommend getting it with. It's genius.
It was an incredible combination of flavors in this. So absolutely, but like, because I was talking to somebody and being like, why is Disney having to do this? And he said it's the summer, and normally we dip down in the summer, but it always comes back, and I think it will. But you'll notice every week there is another announcement about we're discounting this. First it was Tables in Wonderland, or it was annual pass holders and DVC members getting 30% off if you went before 6:30 or after 8:30 to select restaurants. Then the next week we're adding Tables in Wonderland to it, and now this week it's Florida residents. We're going to give you. We're going to give you an appetizer and free valet. First of all, the valet should be free anyway. When you're having dinner, you should be able to validate, and that always annoyed me with the Disney restaurants. They should just be doing that in general.
If you're a DVC member, don't you get valet parking?
You do, and Tables in Wonderland. But if you're a Florida resident without those things, you have to pay for valet.
Yeah, technically DVCs, your valet is only free if you're on a reservation. If you're staying, but I think they give it to you anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I know for Tables in Wonderland, if you eat at a restaurant, you get the valet free. And we believe, we haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise, that if you go to dinner at these places, if you're a Florida resident and an annual pass holder, and you go before 6:30 or after 8:30 to these restaurants, you get the free valet, the free appetizer, and 30% off the rest of your meal. We don't have that confirmed, but we did not see anything saying could not be combined with other offers, did we?
So you can go to dinner and come out with money that they give you?
Yeah, basically, that's what it's coming down
Stack
to.
your discounts.
So, really, especially for Florida residents right now, awesome opportunity to go hit these places up. So, all right, thank you, Charles.
Yep.
Jules?
Because we're talking about food before I talk about Aladdin, Corey and I had the chance to eat at STK for dinner for our anniversary finally.
How was it?
We loved it. They play loud pop music, but for me, I enjoyed it because then I knew no one was listening to our conversation. You know, like how some nice restaurants, it's so quiet, you can hear a pin drop, like you're like whispering because you feel bad being loud or whatever. But incredible appetizers. We had a sommelier who helped us match our wine to our meal, which you don't get at a lot of, unless you ask. Like, she came to our table and was like, can I help you out? And we're like, sure. We don't usually do that sort of thing, but we did. I had an amazing short rib meatloaf, they called it. So basically it's not a true meatloaf, it's in quotes. So they just basically compress your meatloaf, your
Short ribs.
yeah, into a meatloaf shape, and then they like sear it all over, and it had an amazing sauce, and it was just so good. I wanted to get I love short ribs. I just
We have to
can't
try
get
it.
enough.
We keep talking about trying
Yeah, I've heard
Never
mixed
get
reviews
there.
on this
So
place.
but just don't expect it to be quiet. It's loud. There's a lot of things going on, but we loved it. So we would go back for sure.
Cool.
And place you can take the kids. It doesn't matter how loud they are.
Did you have the kids with you for that?
No.
I was going to say.
Anniversary dinner.
Anniversary dinner, that's what I'm saying.
So yeah, but it was really nice. We had a great time. So anyway, it just got me thinking about that. So Disney's upcoming live-action remake of Aladdin has found its Jafar. Marwan Kenzari is reportedly in negotiation with Disney to assume the role of Jafar, And Kenzari has appeared in MGM's Ben-Hur, the remake, FYI.
Not the original, okay.
Universal's The Mummy, and he also stars opposite Noomi Rapace and Glenn Close in Netflix's action thriller What Happened to Monday. I haven't seen that, if anyone has or not. So, he's also played the conductor of a train filled with duplicitous characters, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, Daisy Ridley, Johnny Depp, and Josh Gad in Fox's remake of The Orient Express.
Oh, yeah. That's coming out in November. I'm excited about that.
Supposedly, former Saturday Night Live comedian Nassim Pedra is also said to be joining the Aladdin cast, but it's going to be in a role that has been created specifically for the new film. So they're apparently making up characters now. So
And they'll probably put in an original song or two so they can go for
I mean, we're used to that.
nominations.
The
Don't do
release
it.
date for Aladdin has not been announced yet, but at least they found their Jafar. Still no Aladdin, right?
No, they have Aladdin and Jasmine now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this guy from the photo, I think he's going to be perfect. He actually kind of looks like Jafar to me. But so congrats to him.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Gregory?
Okay, so mobile ordering that you can do through the My Disney Experience app has once again expanded to more restaurants early last week or over the weekend. I can't figure out what it was. But now at Hollywood Studios, you can use the mobile ordering through the app for Backlot Express, ABC Commissary, or Pizza Rizzo. I'm not sure why you would want to with any of those. Or, sorry, no, you will be able to. Backlot Express started today. Then August 14th, ABC Commissary, Pizza Rizzo on August 15th.
Commissary's actually gotten pretty good.
I was going to say, Tracy talked about the commissary, and I think this is where she got her steak.
I know
It is,
there's you know,
She was impressed by it.
I will tell you, beaten there a couple of times in the last few months, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. Backlot Express as well. I didn't find it terrible.
I hate Backlot Express.
The Pizza Rizzo, on the other hand, was horrifying.
I hate Backlot Express. Every time I go there, the food comes out cold. And anymore now, I don't want to like say it in a negative way, but you have to compare standards that Disney has now set versus what they have. You can't have the food at Satuli Canteen be so good and then still settle for something that costs more over
Agreed.
ABC Commissary.
Well, that's a general,
Well, I finally-
general problem with Disney.
Yeah.
is
Thursday,
Consistency.
I finally got over to Pandora.
Good for you.
I know. And we had lunch at Satuli Canteen, and oh my God, the food was amazing. I mean, it's a whole new level of quick service.
Wow.
And I'd like to see if that's going, the success of that and the reviews of that are gonna bleed over to some of these other places.
Yep, and I think it needs to. Quick service, we eat that a lot. Rhino and I specifically, when we're out in the parks, that's what we go and we do vlog reviews on. So we eat a lot of quick service, more than the average person eats when they're down for a week, probably on a vacation. And so, I hope people start to trust us when something's bad and we say it's bad. It's really not that great. But yeah, I love the mobile ordering. That is just absolutely incredible that you can buy. I mean, it's not anything new, but it's so great that you can now bypass these lines at Disney, walk up and just literally pick your food up off the counter and walk back to your seat without having to deal with any of the hassle.
I don't know if you guys talked about this, but they just added online check-in now to the app. So the app's becoming very robust.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Yeah.
Good for them.
Disney has a history, though, of things starting out good and then dumbing it down. Remember when Skipper's Canteen opened and everybody talked about how exotic it was? And that's gone. Disney always opens up something.
Have they changed the menu that drastically?
I still find it it's very
I thought they
exotic
took
to me.
all the. I haven't been there.
No,
Oh, yeah.
they haven't. I think they've renamed things, but the last time I was there, which was about 3 or 4 months ago,
Oh, no, I had read
I
the things
still-
that were there originally were gone.
no, not at least not the last time I was there. Now that may have changed, but
I guess my point was that Disney dumps things down pretty quickly.
they can. But yeah, like I said, I mean, for commissary, I was, the chicken and ribs at commissary, I thought were very good.
I had a bad experience.
Did you?
Yeah, I had a chicken sandwich there, and I was angry. I was furious at this chicken sandwich by the time I left. It was dry, and it was And once again, if you compare it to something like Satuli Canteen, like, price-wise and everything like that, yeah, it's, I was not happy with the money I spent. But then again, everybody else had decent meals. I think you were there, I think Steve was there, and you guys both enjoyed it. But yeah, my chicken sandwich was, I'm vehement against it.
I will say the one nice
Vehement.
part about mobile ordering that I think is helping it cut down right now, and it won't become an issue, is that you currently have to, you can't use your linkage to like your resort reservation. So if you have your credit card on file with Disney, that doesn't matter. You have to put in your credit card information through the app. So a lot of people probably won't want to take that extra step. So for like a local, it's perfect. I don't have my credit card linked to my Disney experience. Doesn't matter. I have to do it when I use the mobile ordering. But for some families, if they left all their credit cards back in their room and they were just planning on using their Magic Bands to pay all day, they can't do so with the mobile ordering system right now. So it's keeping that really well regulated, and I think just a lack of knowledge of people caring to use it, thinking why not just wait in the line for it. But if you go use it, I highly recommend it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Craig. That will do it for Rapid Fire. That is also going to do it for this episode of our show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will be back with you again next week with another edition of the Diz Unplugged. Thanks for being with us, everyone. And remember, stay out of the damn lakes. Have a good week.